We're on.
You win some, you lose more.
Awkward TV interviews, contract news, and just some horrendous press conferences. That doesn't happen here on AFL Today. We're going to break it all down, though. I'm your host, Alex Donnelly. Joined on your far left, if you are watching on YouTube, the lid is off. North Melbourne dominated on Sunday, and here to celebrate is CODE Sports journalist Jess Robinson. Hello, Jess.
Hello, Alex. Hey, Liam. How are we?
Oh, we're just up and about for North, of course. Yeah.
The aforementioned Liam McAllion, a.k.a. the Stats Guy, also a North Melbourne fan. We begged for the win last week, and we finally got it for him. How are you feeling, mate?
Oh, I'm still good. Until we lose, which might not be for another 5 weeks. No, we probably will this week. Until we lose, I'll be up and about for North.
So till Saturday. Got it.
Maybe till Sunday.
Hey, I saw some social media posts saying this is the grand final preview, Adelaide North. So
that would be a really fun grand final, but
you'd have
maybe
40
like
goals.
10 years. Yeah, it'd be a lot of goals.
Not against it after watching the Crows on the weekend. Of course, here on AFL Today, we are brought to you by Tab's AFL's missed by one. If your disposals leg misses by one, Tab will still pay you out as a winner. Download the Tab app today. What are you really gambling with? So today's show, it is the Midweek Madness show here. So we're going to have the midweek winner and loser of the week. Of course, Jess is here. We're going to hear from Eliza Reilly across in the West because, well, Footy in WA. It's going good.
It's burning.
It's really good. Of course, the Thursday night footy preview with myself and the Stats Guy, and of course, some Supercoach vibes. But make sure you do follow us on X, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. It is AFL Today AU, except for Facebook. It is Aussie Rules Today and YouTube AFL Today. Like and subscribe, hit the notifications bell so anytime we do any content, it pops up on your feed. And of course, make sure you look across on our social medias later today for this week's Yeah Nah, brought to you by Yeah Nah Beer. Stats Guy, I've talked enough. Please take over.
Yeah, let's do this. Midweek winners and losers of the week. Very good to have Jess on board as well. We'll start us off because we've got two North fans here. The lid's off. Alex has said this before. Lid's off. North fans have been celebrating all week. Were you just celebrating all week so far, Jess?
absolutely, definitely rewatched, the mini after the match. Had to get all the highlights in because it's been a while since we've had that many highlights in one game. Charlie Comben down back. God, how good was he? How good was seeing Finn O'Sullivan just run amok? And
we just need to give him the ball every time. He doesn't miss.
LDU just charging through the pack. Just all the things that North fans have been calling out for. We got, and let's see more of it.
Yeah, absolutely. My mum's actually a teacher, and she showed all of her students the North highlights, saying, and all these people, she teaches migrant adults English, so she's trying to get new North fans. So they probably think that North's a really good team, even though we're okay, but we're building. So we're going to have some new North fans. Everyone's excited.
That's good.
It did feel like a bit of like, this is still in the winners and can also be played into the losers, but it did feel like a sort of a changing of the guard that North are going up and the Ds are going down.
Oh, yeah.
The tank for Tassie could be on here.
The tank for Tassie.
Well, you need to rebuild in the next 3 years or you're in a lot of trouble with Tassie coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. You're saying Colby McKercher, which I don't even want to think about. He's from Tassie, but we're not even going there. He'll stay at North.
Absolutely not. Oh, yeah, but the changing of the guard, one bolster midfield to another, and it's exciting.
Yeah,
it's exciting to see. We're trying to keep the lid on though, but whatever, just blow it off.
Just give us a week.
I said to Stats Guy on Sunday before he came in to do the show, I was like, I don't care if you're late. Enjoy it.
Yeah,
because
I was singing the song 20 times.
It's been a while since North fans have been able to sit back for 10 or so minutes leading the final siren and like, this is great.
Usually we're just sweating and we win by a point or something like that. So it's good.
You got to enjoy it.
Yeah, you can have the next winner because this is your man.
Yeah, Chad Warner, allegedly set to stay at the Sydney Swans for a further 2 years. So the True Bloods team, who are a podcast here, a part of the Sports Today network, they've had a sort of a figure throughout the year, just where's the line pointing? The red is that he's leaving and in the green is that he's staying. It leant towards the green on Sunday night after the game where he grabbed the jumper and sort of grabbed the badge, showed the Freo fans all about. And then like it was his long-lost love, Dean Cox, jumping into his arms in a warm embrace. Yeah. It was beautiful.
That was really good.
You couldn't script it any better. And I think if Swans fans were looking for a sign, Chad Warner gave it to them.
Oh, yeah. The jumper pull was the sign for me. I've been all along that he's leaving. So for me, this is very happy surprise. But it also makes sense from a sporting perspective as well. He's going to be paid as one of the highest paid players in the game for the next couple of years. He becomes a free agent, and then he can go, all right, which project? He may even stay at the Swans longer. We don't know.
If Freo and West Coast.
But he could go, if Freo and West Coast, both of them are coming up, he can go, all right, this is where I want to go. Or he can stay at the Swans in 2 years, 3 years' time. He's going to have the best of every world he wants.
It's a very good strategy from him because, they're contending team, the Swans.
Yep.
They might win another flag in the next couple of years and then he might go to West Coast or Freo who may be in that contention and he doesn't have to suffer through all the,
trials and tribulations.
Unless he suffers another grand final smashing, and then he might just want to leave anyway.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah,
that's fine.
That's a valid point.
Yeah, third time's a charm, Chad. But it's a win for West Coast and Freo because they don't have to give up massive draft haul. West Coast desperately need kids in, and Freo don't have a draft haul. So
and both teams could do with a Chad Warner.
Was it telling that he did it against a WA team?
I think it was.
He was
copping a bit of stick, and it was like he obviously knows about all the noise going on around there at the moment. So yeah, there's a bit of everything, and it was the first win as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, not wrong.
So this, I don't know if this falls into winner.
I didn't know where to put this in winners. It was a bit awkward.
And I need to get the journalist perspective from you here, Jess. So last night on Footy Classified, Tom Morris and Bevo made up. Tom Morris and Bevo in the same room for the first time in 3 years. This was awkward.
It was an awkward watch for sure. 3 years, no contact.
Yeah, no contact at all, which is rare.
At all, you know. So everybody knows the history between these two, but full credit to Tom Morris because he came to that panel and he was the utmost professional.
Yeah,
I do feel.
He was a little scared.
To be honest, after watching their intro highlight reel of the presser comments from Bevo back 3 years ago, I would be scared sitting on that panel.
Mustache as well. He looked pretty scary.
But also his arms, it's just jacked.
Wow. Yeah, so Tom did very well, handled himself very well. But, you know, I think Tom has let it go.
Yeah.
Bevo, it seems like he hasn't let it go.
Well, they said they were going to make up, but he was like, I think it's going to be a few more years. That's what Bevo was saying.
He said time, will tell, time heals all. Is 3 years not enough? It was an interesting one to watch.
Yeah.
He also, storylines started to come up. I think Eddie asked Tom at one point, what were those storylines that kind of led to this heated presser?
Yeah.
And, Tom started to bring it up and Bevo quickly shut it down and said, if we can visit this at another time, but I thought this was the time to visit it. But
I think it's also he doesn't want it brought back up because he doesn't want to sort of go back to where he was in that mind space. Like, it's happened. He apologized. He moved on. As far as he's concerned, it's sort of over. And I think there was like leaks out of the club and Tom Morris was getting all the scoops. So I can understand from Bevo's point of view. But as a journalist, we are not journalists, Stats Guy.
Well, yeah, but we were.
if you were to have something like this happen to yourself, how would you handle that situation and potentially look to rectify it? If you got some news and then the coach is like, what the bloody hell?
Well, the thing is that the leaks are coming from somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think Bevo decided to take it out
onto
Tom Morris.
Yeah.
And I know Tom, I know a lot of the journalists in the industry would usually give the club a heads up. This is coming out in a few hours.
Yeah.
Get your ducks in a row. He's doing his job.
Yeah.
He has a job to do.
Exactly.
And I did find it very interesting that Bevo took it so hard. So it shows that maybe things weren't all happy days within the four walls. They probably needed to ask some questions internally. So it's a tough one to handle. At the time, Tom respected Bevo's wishes. He hasn't gone to a Bulldogs press conference in 3 years.
Which is wild because he's obviously a big name and he would usually be at every press conference. So.
Totally.
You can just handball it to someone.
Someone else can go there.
Bulldogs, no, that's you, mate. So that moves us on into sort of the losers part of this, which again revolves around the Western Bulldogs.
Poor Bulldogs at the moment.
And I'd be frustrated if I was a Bulldogs fan. Obviously, that heartbreaking loss to Collingwood on Friday night. I still want to call him Footscray, but the Jamara Ugle-Hagan issue. I'm almost over talking about it, and it's round 3. But you've been covering the NBL all season, so you've been at the NBL finals at Rod Laver with John Cain. Why wasn't it Rod Laver? More people. But Jamara decided to go to the finals during the week. He went to the NRL, but he didn't go to the Bulldogs' 100th anniversary at the MCG on Friday.
That's not a good look.
It doesn't sit right.
No.
Absolutely. Yes, as you mentioned, he was at the NBL, he was at the NRL. To not go to the 100th year celebration, that is a really big call from Jamara. It was interesting listening to Bevo on the show last night talk about the situation. A lot of comments like holding out hope, maturity. But maturity, I feel like he's a few years into his career now. I don't think we can be talking about maturity. It'll come down to a group decision is what Bevo is saying. And a lot of the unknown. I also found it interesting that Bevo mentioned that other clubs are reportedly interested.
Yeah,
which
why
is
would he
something
even
that's a
say
very
that?
interesting comment to make when maybe you're trying to keep your former number one draft.
Yeah, and he could be like a franchise player. Like you can get past, obviously there's a lot of issues off field. If you can get past that, like we've written down here, Geelong, they did exactly the same thing with Bailey Smith, and then they can probably get Jamara for nothing. It's a bad look for the Dogs that are going to have a lot of players over the last year or so possibly leave. You got McRae that's doing well, Caleb Daniels doing well at North. Their depth is gone, and then their young guys are leaving. Oh, you wouldn't want to be a Bulldogs fan right now.
Do we think that their thought process and way that they would go about this would be different if Sam Darcy wasn't around?
Oh, true.
Absolutely.
Like,
I think Dogs fans are like, oh, at least we got Sam Darcy.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, oh, thank God we got him.
Yes, and you've got Aaron Norton as well, who signed that long-term contract to be a star forward. So they're definitely not short on choices for that key position player. But it makes me also think about his stocks, like going into a trade period.
They have plummeted to, he's worth one late first-round pick at the moment. If this was the end of last season where he kicked 40, 50 goals, he had a bad final. It's one bad game. Everyone has a bad game. He would have been worth 2 first-rounders, one inside the top 10.
Yes, exactly. It makes me think not to bring the North bias back into the conversation, but, Jason Horne-Francis wanted out after a season and they let him go. You know, they didn't force him to stay. They got a great return. We got some great picks which resulted in some very key players for the Roos right now. So it's a shame that it's kind of worked out this way for a number one pick at the Dogs.
And the same with Bailey Smith as well. After missing a year of injury, and it was like, oh, you should be grateful you got pick 19, has 30 and a goal in his first game.
He's a lot better than that. Same as Jamara. If he goes to the likes of Geelong, who are really good at managing their players.
He can't go to Geelong.
I know, I really
Geelong
don't want
will make it happen.
I know, they probably will somehow. They'll get him a farm or get a Cotton On sponsorship, as we've talked about before. I don't know.
Free wedding at Rosemont Stud.
Yeah, maybe.
And the final one on the Dogs, Adam Treloar's done a calf again. He's had a setback. He's going to miss another month. So they've been hammered with everything going on off the field, but on the field, they can't get their midfield on the park.
You look at their injury list and, God, there's a few stars on the sidelines.
All Australian,
from Bont, Cody Waitman, Liam Jones in defence. He's out. So you just think if you add those characters back into the team, they probably get the win on Friday night against Collingwood in their 100th year anniversary.
Yeah, filthy.
Continuing on, Fremantle and Justin Longmuir, we'll quickly touch on this because, of course, we have Eliza Reilly coming on. Under immense pressure going into a derby this weekend. If they were to lose and go 0-3 after losing their final 4 games in 2024, the pressure just really ramps up. Is there anything floating around the newsroom about Justin Longmuir at the moment, especially after his vanilla comments pre-season?
Yeah, look, I think the pressure will be coming and it'll be coming quick, especially if they go 0-3 and West Coast go 2-1.
1-2.
1-2, yeah.
Well, if they get the win.
If they get the win, that would be wild if West Coast win.
That'd be 2-1 against them in the last 12 months.
Yes.
Ooh, not good.
That would be crazy.
And finally, this is the weird press conference part. Simon Goodwin completely throwing his superstar ruckman Max Gawn and captain under the bus on Sunday night. Not just saying, Max had an off day, got beaten by one of the best ruckmen in the comp. Yeah, Max has had a bad week at home. There's some family issues. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like if you're in any industry where you're famous or you're a big name, I didn't think it was his call. I think he regrets it now, but I don't think it was his call to bring up the issues and things like that. I know it's a tough one, but then Max Gawn had to sort of dance around and he said he still loves the club and loves Simon Goodwin, things like that. But if I was Max Gawn, I would have been really pissed off, yeah.
Is there anything worse than excuses for a poor performance like that?
Yeah.
Like,
that's what it sounded like.
Say you got beaten.
Yeah.
And then Max Gawn came out and said, there has been illness within the family, but that's been kind of a long-term thing that they've been managing. So
and he just said it, I got beaten.
Yeah, Simon Goodwin to bring that up. And that really just sours it for a team that, performed really well. Tristan Xerri had an outstanding game.
Absolutely.
Kind of just takes away from that, which not cool from a North fan perspective.
I don't know if that's what he was trying to do, Goodwin. I think it just popped into his head and he said it, but he needs, as a coach.
Don't say the quiet part out loud.
It was in his head and he just shouldn't have put it out loud. So definitely they need to sort that out. And there's a lot of issues at Melbourne. I was
about to say, the vibes out of the D's, it was all good at pre-season. Clary's ripped. We're good to go. Oh, God, we're 0-2.
I know. It's a bit of a worry now of the D's.
Well, and being part of that media team, the PR team, they would be briefing Simon 100%. Goodwin in the lead up to a match like this. They probably have all these touch points that they would discuss, and I doubt they would have.
Yeah, I don't think that was on his list.
To say, let's say that about Max.
Yeah,
so
not wrong.
Yeah, that's a tough.
Yeah, that's not good. Before we let you go, how are you going to go against the Crows this weekend?
Oh, the Roos, yeah.
Roos and Crows.
I'm calling a shootout, but I think Adelaide win.
It's going to be tough. I'm always going to back my boys in.
Yeah.
And especially after that weekend performance. I actually think it's going to be a really great match. Adelaide probably got
You've never
maybe
won
a little bit more star power.
Oval. Never won at the Adelaide Oval.
It's only been around like 15 years.
If it's time to break that streak, I reckon it's this weekend.
Oh, that's a big goal.
The funny thing is when you win in Adelaide in Gather Round, it's at the Barossa Valley.
I know.
It's not even the Adelaide Oval.
That's beautiful out there.
Get me there.
Yeah.
He's going.
Well, I'll be there. I'll be there. A few wines.
All right, big thanks to Jess for joining us this week.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Tonight's game's going to be epic.
Missed by one on the AFL? With Tab, you can stay in the game. Miss by one on any disposals leg, and Tab will still pay you out as a winner. Tab, we're on.
Imagine what you could be buying instead.
All right, footy may not be going great in Western Australia at the moment, but I tell you what has been great is the articles from CODE Sports journalist Eliza Reilly just coming off the long run and whacking the teams left and right for their lack of performance, shall we say, in the first couple of rounds of the season. Welcome in, Eliza.
Hello, yes, everything's going great here. We love WA football. Woo!
Yes, I love the energy. Yeah. I can feel the quiver in the voice there.
Yeah, no trepidation at all, but obviously massive week. It's a derby week. Nailed it, got the pronunciation right. First time ever 17th versus 18th. Just give us the general vibe of WA at the moment because it can't be great.
People are calling it the Spoon Bowl Derby. Could be given both of our teams. This is the first time they've been 17th and 18th on the ladder since 2001. So it's been a fair while, and it's also the first time both teams will enter the derby, barring the sort of season opener derbies we've had in the past in round one, but first time winless. So everyone's like, just someone goddamn win a game. Like, we're sick of seeing our teams losing, and we obviously one team will win, barring a draw. Wouldn't that be funny?
I imagine there's a draw.
Nobody actually won, but someone's gonna hopefully, fingers crossed, walk away with their first win of the season. But it feels like for West Coast, it's a free swing, and for Fremantle, the pressure and the expectations getting to them.
Is the funniest result now a draw?
Probably.
Oh yes, for sure.
Yeah,
that would be wild. Even the fans, I don't think want that.
Oh, no one wants it.
No one wants that.
No one wants it, but it would be funny.
I do for chaos now, now that I've thought of it. But let's talk about Freo. We'll start off there because they're the major disappointment, obviously. Round one, absolutely smacked off the park by Geelong, and then somehow have lost that game to the Swans on the weekend. Do we think Justin Longmuir is regretting saying he played a vanilla brand of football in the All-Stars game now?
Yeah.
Oh, so bad. So many regrets. Like, that word just will not go away, and it's going to haunt Fremantle for the rest of the season. But he did sort of get asked about it again a couple of weeks later against their practice match against Melbourne, which obviously did win. And he sort of tried to clarify what he meant, and he was like, no, I was talking about our stoppage work was vanilla, not the whole team. And then he just turned to the journalist and said, can you please rephrase that question? He is already sick of the vanilla word, but I feel like it's going to be one that could very well define Fremantle's season.
Absolutely.
Coming out of that, so just this sort of sheer panic and the silly mistakes that Freo have made in that last quarter, it's not just a once-off. So their last 10 minutes in the last quarter of their last 5 games, so that includes the Geelong game, they've been outscored 74-7. They've kicked 1 goal in the last 10 minutes of a game in their last 5. We talked about this last year. They just didn't have the finishing button within them. How is that something that they can turn around? Because now it's data across 2 seasons, and it's staggering that they've been beaten 11 goals to 1, and it's cost them finals last year, and it may well cost them finals this year with the slow start.
Yeah, absolutely. And we sort of thought, watching them this preseason, that it was something they were really focusing in on and wanted to address. We've seen them during match simulation do a lot of like situational football where the coaches will stop the clock and manipulate the scoreboard and say, okay, your team's down, we've got 5 minutes to go, let's play this out. Like, just really trying to practice those close, tight end-of-game scenarios. And the other thing that was noticeable in pre-season is that their sessions went really long, like to the point we're talking 3.5 hours in 40-degree heat, and then they'd spring surprise sort of sprinting fitness running sessions on them at the very end of that. So we were sort of sitting back thinking, is this like, longer for harder? Like, are they really trying to drill in the mental sort of strength of this team and put them to the task that we can outlast anyone? But that obviously hasn't come to the fore yet. So it is only early. It was a very disappointing loss against the Swans, but I think the most costly thing was their just stupid mistakes. Like Pat Voss, I don't know what he was thinking, trying to switch the ball inbound with less than 3 minutes to play. There was like dropped marks. Caleb Sarong kicked the turf at one point. It was just there's Justin Longmuir is under a lot of pressure because of his game plan and vanilla, but Docker's players, like their failure to execute in the big moments, is a big reason why he's under pressure.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point you've said about the execution and things like that. It doesn't always come back all to the coach. We had a look before this as well that they've lost their last 6 games now. The Dockers, a lot of people had them up in top 4. I think we both did at the start of the season. It's still a possibility, but do you think the expectations have dropped a little bit now? Maybe they're just aiming to make finals or just even get a win on the board, Eliza, or do you think the expectation will still be pretty high?
Well, ideally getting a winner on board, yes, that would be a great start. But I know sort of internally they've been speaking about teams who haven't started the season well and have gone on to still make finals and still make the Pointy finals, looking as soon back as Brisbane last year, who obviously didn't start that well and managed to get their bundled together and charge home for a premiership. So it's not all doom and gloom internally, but you just feel that subconsciously that the pressure, the expectation that was on the start of the season to now be winless heading into a high-stakes derby. Jago O'Meara said at a press conference yesterday, it feels like a punch to the face after they felt so confident and so ready that they were going to have an impact this year. So I just feel like that subconscious doubt will start to creep in if they're in tight games, and they need to do something to shut out the noise and to shut out that little voice in their head, because otherwise it is going to be a fairly challenging season, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go to the worst end of the scale. They get beaten by 5 or 6 goals by West Coast
surely not.
in the derby. Justin Longmuir has had his contract reworked and now he's an employee of the football club. Will there be really, really hot pressure on him given the chances he's had, the list he's got, and just the season start that they've had? If, say, they do end up 0-4, 0-5, will he be in a lot of strife?
Oh, there's without a doubt he will be in trouble. The sort of employment agreement, that rolling sort of, being a part of the club, that doesn't kick in until the end of the season. He's still on his fixed term contract until the end of 2025.
He's gone.
When Simon Garlick was sort of trying to wishy-washy explain this weird new agreement at a press conference a few weeks ago, he was sort of asked directly, like, does this new agreement guarantee that he will be coach in 2026? Like, is there an ironclad guarantee that this rolls over? And he basically said, well, it's a performance-based industry and results will dictate what happens to Justin. So they've, come to a handshake agreement, but it doesn't absolutely guarantee that new agreement's going to come into place, if that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. We'll move on from Freo now. And before we get to West Coast, we do need to talk about something that sort of does involve both Perth teams, and that is the news about Chad Warner, because obviously both Perth teams would desperately love to have Chad Warner in their midfield in 2026. But after the weekend, the performance of the Chad, as well as the jumper pulling after the game and jumping into Dean Cox's arms like a long-lost love that you haven't seen for so long. He's allegedly going to re-sign with the Swans the next few weeks. God bless it. Is this possibly the best outcome for both teams, given in 2 years when he's a free agent, that's allegedly how long he's going to sign, neither team's going to have to give up a draft pick to get him. It's just a bundle of cash.
Yeah, look, I think if you're a list manager at both teams, that is the ideal outcome. But for West Coast in particular, we've heard so much about this pairing up of Harley Reid and Chad Warner and how much that could have played into Harley's decision to potentially stay at the West Coast Eagles. But I think holistically looking at the whole situation, the Eagles desperately need still top-end talent to come into that club and make an impact. And we didn't get it in totality in the last draft because obviously they traded away pick 3 to get Liam Baker, who has been pretty brilliant, but they could have...
Not worth pick 3.
He's been good, but they didn't have to give up pick 3.
Yeah.
They bundled that negotiation and had to deal with Carlton and Hawthorn separately and go through this weird sort of long-winded process to get where they wanted to get. So I still think the Eagles desperately need... We're talking top 10 picks. We're talking Bo Allen's going to be a great player, but they still need a superstar young midfielder, I feel, to come in, and that's going to be a top 5, a top 10 pick that you're going to probably get at the end of the year. So Chad, both clubs would absolutely love him. We can't discount that. But like you mentioned, it probably is not a bad outcome when he can spend the next 2 years at Sydney, the window's still open, try and win a flag with the Swans, and then look at his options to come home a little way into the future and sort of play this assessing game where he looks at the next 2 years and the fates of both clubs to make up his mind.
Yeah, good call. Yeah.
I'm like Swans fan, love it that I'm potentially going to have Chad Warner for another 2 years, but logically when you think about it, he's going to be one of the highest paid players in the game at a contender, and in 2 years' time, he's done his 7-8 years at the Swans. He can shake hands like we did everything we could together. Now I can go be the face of whichever project there is, and which one's in a better spot. Because right now, you're looking at it, Chad Warner's like, I'll just stay in Sydney.
Yeah, you'd still rather go to Freo, 100%.
I'd rather go to West Coast. There's more power there. But let's talk about West Coast. Yep. Obviously, great effort on the weekend, and I think that's what, even if West Coast don't win more games than they did last year, is this the type of effort fans will just want to see every week? Just gradual improvements and some of these kids stepping up.
It's absolutely what West Coast fans want to see because for far too often we've criticised the effort of this team and it looks like they just roll out and don't throw a single punch, and that's more frustrating, I reckon, for fans than actually losing games, just seeing that lack of effort, that lack of intent, and it's amazing what bringing that can actually do for your performance on the weekend, and we saw it against Brisbane, the reigning premiers. West Coast had piled 5 goals on before Brisbane even had a shot on goal. So it was a remarkable performance, and that first half was incredible viewing for Eagles fans with this sort of team that you looked at the week before and went, oh God, like, is it going to get worse? Like, is it going to get worse before it gets better? And then they show signs of life against the reigning premiers on their home deck. I don't think our honourable losses are going to fully appease the Eagles army, but certainly they're a good step in the right direction, and for the confidence of the team internally as well, to do that, you walk away thinking, geez, we might be in a better spot than we thought we were here.
Yeah, that's very handy. We talked about Harley Reid. I know Alex is sick of talking about Harley Reid.
I'm so over it.
He's always in the media. He flipped off the crowd, obviously. What are your thoughts on the media in general? Just sort of a lot of people saying it's a bit of harshness towards Harley Reid, and do you think he's the media's being too harsh, and how his season has started so far? Because a few people are worried, but I'm not too worried. He's a young kid and
just
he's only
leave
in his
the
second year.
kid alone. Let him play footy.
Yeah, what's your thoughts, Eliza?
So my view on this is pretty simple. We all need to stop talking about Harley until after the Derby this weekend because he's a big game player. We saw what he did to the Dockers last year and should have probably won the Glendenning Allen medal for kicking 3 goals and taking a couple hangers in West Coast win. He is a big game player. Harley Reid is not getting up for a 10 a.m. WA game at the Gabba. He's not getting up to play the Gold Coast Suns at 3 p.m. on a Sunday in round 1. He's getting up for the biggest game in WA football, the biggest stage, West Coast home crowd. It obviously hasn't been ideal at the start of the season. I do think he needs to pull his head in and not be flipping off the crowd. You know, it's not a great look, and I don't think the club would be too impressed by it. But holistically, Harley Reid has had so much positivity, excitement about him since he was the age of 16. This is really the first 2 weeks of his entire career that he's had to deal with a bit of scrutiny and a bit of negative press. So he's still a kid. He's still finding his feet. Let's judge him after the derby on the weekend.
I love that. Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm all for it. Just let the kid play footy. It's a lot of Victorian media that's piling in, and it's like, if I'm Harley Reid, I'm like, why would I want to come back to Victoria when I'm copying this when I'm in Perth?
Yeah.
Like, it just seems ridiculous. But anyway, you wrote a great piece on Code Sports about Tyrell Dewar with his breakout game over the weekend. 14 touches and 2 goals in the first half. And then, it was about 83 degrees there with a humidity of about 1,000,000%. So he ran out of legs. But the sliding doors moment you talked about it, where he moved from Kalgoorlie to Perth about playing footy, and then he's nearly missed that opportunity due to homesickness. Sort of take us through his journey, and then also from a Perth, WA perspective, seeing this kid break out on Sunday.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so obviously moved to Perth at the age of, in year 9, to go and board at Wesley College, which is one of the private schools over here in Perth. Very good football program there. So got that opportunity, but then was hit by pretty intense homesickness and went home after just the 1 year. But he said sort of halfway during that year off that he was back home in Kalgoorlie, he sort of said to himself, I'm not going to make the most of this opportunity. There's nowhere here for me to take my footy to the next level and to take the next step. So he sort of made the pretty brave decision to go back to Perth and go back to Wesley for his final 2 years of year 12. And when he was playing footy for Wesley, that's when he was actually scouted by West Coast NGA sort of recruiters who picked him up, said, mate, come down to training. We'll wrap your arms around you. And that's how he got into the Eagles Academy. And then he was sort of picked up. They didn't even have to use a pick on him in the end. They just sort of took him after the draft and put him on the list. And he was like 63, 64 kilos when he was first picked up. I remember seeing him at his first training session. I went, this kid, nah, this is not going to happen. Like, this is a project player, like, nice story, NGA graduate, blah, 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 but this kid's going to be off the list in less than 2 years. But he came back after his first year at the Eagles. Obviously, got his sort of bundled together, had a chat with Adam Simpson about professionalism and what he needed to do to take his game to the next level. And that was the year he actually made his debut, because he's worked so hard on his footy and become sort of gone from a project player to what will now be a crucial cog in this Eagles side. Started as a forward, now is playing on the wing and having a massive impact.
He did look awesome. Yeah, he was really, really good. That's sort of the thing. A lot of people in Victoria say, some of the young guys coming through for the Eagles aren't that good, but you got Dewar, I feel like Bo Allen will be really good. You got Elijah Hewitt. So there's a few guys there, but as you said, they just need to draft a bit better in the next couple of years. Yeah.
And even Liam Ryan returning to form last week was a helpful hand as well. That's, I suppose, that consistency is something that Eagles fans will want just for the rest of the year. Hopefully get a couple of wins out of him.
Yeah, like, to be honest, you could see a glint in his eye this pre-season, and even as far back as the Indigenous All-Stars game, when he played in that, like, glimpses of him in that game, you were like, this is the Liam Ryan of old. Like, he's obviously been smashed by injury in the past few years. He's had a few really serious hamstring injuries and surgery on both hamstrings, I think, from memory. So you sort of saw early on in pre-season that he was really mounting for a big year. And I think obviously missed round 1, didn't quite get up due to a bit of hamstring awareness, which they wanted to be ultra-conservative with. But he was probably up there with their best player on the weekend, 3 goals. And, they were 50-50 shots on goal. They were big bombs from outside 50. They were from the pocket. And he took every single chance he got. So, and also set up a few goals going inside 50. He's a barometer. He's such an important player for that team, and his leadership and sort of seniority is going to be really important this year.
Absolutely.
Now, before we let you go, we need to get a winner and a margin for the Derby this Saturday or Sunday night. Sorry,
Glendinning Allen medalist as well.
Well, if Eliza's on the voting panel, we can't ask for that.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I forgot about that.
I don't think I am. It's Wednesday and I haven't been called yet, so I'm going to say I'm not.
Okay. So winner, best on ground and margin.
Yes.
I'm going to go Fremantle by 15 points.
Ooh, close, yeah.
And let's go Jay O'Meara for the medal. He's had a pretty good start to the season.
He's back in form.
Yeah. All right, Statsman, your thoughts?
I'm in agreement. I reckon Freo could smash them. I reckon they'll come out and absolutely smash them. I think they're just building and they're going to fire up on the derby.
Building to what?
They're building. They'll. I don't know. We'll find out on Sunday.
West Coast could be very tired after the longest trip in footy and in that humidity. So I think Freo will get it done. It'll be an ugly game and Josh Tracy will kick 6.
Josh Tracy. Ooh,
Yeah.
I'll go so wrong.
Bang.
Yeah. Big thanks to Eliza Reilly for joining us today. You can check out all of her gear on CODE Sports. She was also on Fox Sports, I saw last night.
Yeah.
And also back chat with Will Schofield.
Yeah, just anyone who needs me. I'm crying out for more my mug on TV. So just
Love that.
All right, welcome back. Big thanks to Jess and big thanks to, of course, Eliza Reilly joining us bright and early over in the West. All right, Stats Guy, Thursday night footy.
Yes.
How are Essendon in 8 primetime matches, Thursday or Friday, in the first 15 rounds? That's my first problem.
Well, I don't know, Alex. You're going to have to talk to the top. I've got no idea. That does not make any sense to me.
I have a lot of issues with fixturing, and this one could be top of the list right now. Essendon being in 8 Thursday or Friday night games for the first 15 weeks feels like a crime.
They get the crowds, but surely they'll drop off if they keep losing.
No one's going to turn up on Thursday night as they take on the Port Adelaide Power Thursday, 7:30 p.m. as said at Marvel Stadium. Essendon, $2.35. Port Adelaide, $1.60. Is this line really only 7.5?
Yes, so that's why that is one of my best bets in this one. Port Adelaide -7.5, $1.90 with Tab. Now, we've talked about them before. Port absolutely love playing at Marvel. They should just play there instead of the Adelaide Oval.
Can they put a roof on the Adelaide Oval?
It's pretty big, but
cost about $1 billion.
yeah, we'll put in for it. They have an amazing record at Marvel. It's 11-1 there since 2020. They just hardly ever lose there, and they've covered the line in all 11 of those wins. They've also beat Essendon the last 8 times, so they love playing against the Bombers. And $1.90 for that line. I thought it'd be at least a couple of goals, but 7.5.
That's insane.
So I'll take that.
Give me all of that. That could be best bet of the weekend territory right there.
I reckon it is.
Haven't looked at any of the other markets of the games yet, but I'm like, done, straight away. Get it out of the way Thursday. Tell you what I love about Thursdays. If your team wins, or you collect on your multi and whatever else, of course, gamble responsibly.
Yep.
Your weekend's just great.
Yeah, or if you win,
you're off to a flyer.
Exactly right.
It's so good. All right, give us a player pick. Give us some stats and facts, Stats Guy.
Yeah, we'll go player pick this one. Mitch Georgiades, he came off 4 goals against the Tigers. I know the Tigers aren't great, but Essendon's defense we've seen in the first couple of rounds has been woeful. So
Abysmal.
I think you got Ben Mackay and Zach Reid down there. Leo was talking them up on the show as one of the worst pairings of all time. $2.50 for Mitch Georgiades, 3+ goals. Really like that. He averages three goals against the Bombers. It's one of his best teams he loves playing against. He's got 9 goals in 3 games, so not a big sample size there, but he loves playing against the Bombers, and he's their main man now. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I don't mind it, especially given you're going to have the delivery from Rosé, who's fresh off about 30 billion disposals against Richmond. You've got the Hornet, who's going to be buzzing around as well. Kane Farrell, I reckon he'd be one for 25+.
You're big on Kane Farrell.
Big on Kane Farrell.
Yeah.
He's taken over Dan Houston's role.
Yeah, he has. He's been really
but
good.
as we've seen, some of these halfbacks when they play against Essendon can absolutely dish out because Essendon, what can't they do, Stats Guy? Defend on transition.
Yep.
All right, let's get to the tips. Leo, he's been rested today. We're just managing him through this week. He missed work yesterday, so I'm just managing him.
He's not
through.
dropped. He'll be back.
No, he's being managed. He'll be back on Thursday night for the team show, of course.
I love
which will
that.
be out.
Managed is like the most sus thing
I
ever.
know.
But he hasn't done anything wrong, from what we know.
Yeah, exactly. So Leo's tipping Port by 9. Give us something, Stats Guy. What have you got here?
Yeah, just because of that thing I said before, Essendon have won it 8 straight times. I think they're going to easily...
Port have won 8 straight times.
Why the hell did I say Essendon? That is really bad. Port have won 8 straight times. Port by 20. I think they're going to get 9 straight in a row. There we go.
Port by 37.
37?
Yeah. They kicked 30. Felt like they kicked 30 goals last week. Essendon allowed in 25.
They were really bad in round 1. So that's why I think it'll still be decently close, but Port will kick away.
See, I think Essendon are bad and Port are just not as bad. And also Zach Merritt's going to get tagged by our mate Willem Drew.
Oh,
Willem.
Willem. You can't say his first name without his last name.
Willem Drew.
Willem Drew. You have to say both.
Yeah, WD. Bit of WD-40. He's going to clamp Zach Merritt on Thursday night. All right, let's take a look at some other markets, of course, brought to you by Tab. I love finding weird and different markets because I'm a weird guy at times.
Yep, I'll back that.
Let's be honest. So Tab, in their generosity, have a top Victorian team market for the 2025 AFL season. So this is paid out at the end of the home and away season.
Don't mind that.
I'm all over Hawthorn at $2.15 currently. I know they're the favourites, but when the next pick is Collingwood, who I still don't think are much good, Hawthorn feel like they are the standout team in the competition at the moment, not just Victoria. $2.15. They're unbeaten. They may lose to the Giants this weekend, but I think they will be the number one Victorian team come the end of the season. I'll be having a saver on your top pick.
Well, my top pick, I don't know. I'll go Geelong. Yeah, $4.30. I think the value's there for that one. I'm not saying I think Hawthorn will take it out, but in terms of if you want a little bit more value, I would lean towards Geelong. I think it's going to be out of those two probably.
I agree.
For the top two. But yeah, I'm still backing the Hawks. But $4.30 with Geelong, you know what you're going to get. Yeah. They're going to win a lot of games in Geelong, and they have a little blip. They had a little blip on the week against St Kilda, but I'm not worried.
They've lost to St Kilda 4 times in a row at Marvel. So it's just one of those things. It's like the Swans can't beat Brisbane Lions. For some reason, Geelong can't beat St Kilda.
But they're a really good price. They get their players back, like Bailey Smith will come back in. There was someone else that has to come back in as well. Tom Stewart, exactly right. Hopefully he stays fit. If those big guys stay fit, then they'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm happy to back those two. As I think both of them can finish top 4. So, stake it appropriately, and you can come out with a pretty decent profit there.
Imagine what you could be buying instead.
Finally, Stats Guy, Supercoach, some Supercoach vibes this weekend. I already mentioned him in our previous segment there. I've bought in Kane Farrell.
Yeah, I don't mind that.
Bought him in. A lot of people are talking about Bailey Dale from the Western Bulldogs, but the thing is he's taken like 10 kickouts in both games to start the season. Teams are not going to be that inaccurate against the Western Bulldogs all year. He does have a low ceiling, it feels like. So I'm pretty happy to take Kane Farrell. He scored 104 last weekend, I think. He's got a good break even of 46 this week, so if you want to get some extra money in there as well before he goes up. He could score 150 against Essendon on Thursday night, just running off half back.
Yeah, he actually scored 131 last time he played in Melbourne against the Bombers as well. So that's pretty handy. But I do like that theory, but I'm leaning towards some of the rookies. You got to bring in Xavier Lindsay.
Got him. Already had him.
I don't have him, so I'm going to bring in Lindsay. I didn't even rate him as much as some other players at the start of the season, but he's been awesome.
Yeah.
I even had Jack Henderson, I think, as well.
He's in.
He's in already in my team. He's been really good. And then I'm looking the vice captain. I've stuffed up the vice captain all year. What do you reckon, Alex? What are you leaning towards?
I don't know at the moment. Like I'm having a look. I captained Dawson last week, and
that's good
against Essendon, and I feel like I could go him with captain again.
Yep. He looks back.
I am very tempted to vice captain Kane Farrell on Thursday night.
Oh, this is a Kane
Farrell love-in right here.
Jeez.
But if I think about it the way that I think he's going to play this game, it is the Thursday night game. It's best 18. So we could do that, but I'm not sure because I'm looking at Dawson, I'm looking at Cherry against Riley O'Brien. So do North have a tagger other than Will Phillips?
No, we haven't even been tagging, so I don't mind Dawson. I think Dawson will have a massive game.
Jack McRae could be a captain.
McRae's
option.
my vice captain just because he's got the best average in Supercoach. Yeah. He looks back. He's the Supercoach pig that everyone used to love. He's averaging 145, and he's up against Richmond, who don't tag. Even if they get close in this one, somehow Richmond, the Saints will get a lot of ball in the midfield. So
I've had to boost in the trade this week. Harry Perryman, Finn O'Sullivan, Hugo Garcia, gone.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't start Garcia because he's stunk it up, hasn't he?
Yeah, and I had Boxall in. I got rid of him, and he's probably going to play this weekend. So there's real bad areas for me early. But I've bought in Henderson for the D's, Farrell, who I've mentioned a million times, and O'Sullivan from the Cats.
Ooh, okay.
So because I've got a ruck issue at the moment. I got Flynn. So while the best 18s are going, I'm hoping that Flynn can get back in.
Yes.
I got to try and somehow get up to TDK.
I thought he was stiff Flynn to get dropped, but hopefully he comes back in.
I've still got Zach Reid on the field, which is a worry. Like my defense is all over the joint. But I've got
at least it's not defending for an actual team. It's just Supercoach.
I got 203,000 in the bank now. So like with some price bumps and everything coming, like I'm getting really aggressive early because when I go overseas, I'm just like no trades.
Yeah, just try and pray there's no injuries.
Oh, there'll hopefully be a text message. So-and-so's injured. I'm going to go in and do a trade, right?
It does work overseas, yeah.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
It's handy.
That's good. Is that us done, Stats Guy?
I think so.
All right, that is us done and dusted today on AFL Today. If you did enjoy today's episode, make sure you get around AFL Today on YouTube. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notifications bell so anytime we do a piece of content, you get notified that we are doing it. Of course, follow us on X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Aussie Rules Today on Facebook, and it's AFL Today AU on X, Instagram, and TikTok for more footy content all season long. We have massive gather-round plans coming up. Of course, make sure you subscribe and like all of our other shows on your podcast apps. Cricket Today, which we're on a bit of a hiatus at the moment. You got what?
IPL we're doing every now and then because some of the Aussies are going well, yeah.
AFLW Today, we are deep in the planning of that show at the moment for the coming season, which starts around August. Hold all tickets. Massive weekend of racing. Got the Tancred Stakes, Binary Stakes, and the Australian Cup this weekend from Rosehill and Flemington. Championships not too far away. Of course, the boys at True Bloods, they were in the studio and up and about on Tuesday night. So that video is up this afternoon. The podcast is already out. And Honest Beers as well. With St Kilda winning, Leggy's like, this is the greatest week of my life. And Wally's just happy because Hawthorn keep winning. Of course, thank you to Jess for jumping on, Eliza Reilly for jumping on. Thank you to Stats Guy.
Thank you.
Of course, producer Gerald behind the camera. And of course, Leo, he is doing some social stuff today, so we'll give him a thumbs up there. Of course, thank you to our sponsors, Tab and their AFL's missed by one. If your disposals leg has missed by one, Tab will still pay you out as a winner. Download the Tab app today. Tomorrow night. So this will come out on Friday morning on your YouTube feed. But tomorrow night, the boys will record the Thursday night team show. It will be out first thing Friday morning for you to watch, listen, take in content however you like. The boys will break down all remaining 7 games this weekend, and they will catch you then on AFL Today.
Tonight's game's going to be epic.
Missed by one on the AFL? With Tab, you can stay in the game. Miss by one on any disposals leg, and Tab will still pay you out as a winner. Tab, we're on.
Imagine what you could be buying instead.